Good morning, afternoon, and evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am David Swallow, and you're back for another 5-minute game review. On today's agenda, we will be reviewing Santorini. Santorini is a 2 to 4 player game that plays out in about 15 to 20 minutes, and even faster once you do pick up the game. You take control of one of Zeus's immortal kids who have found themselves a village perched on top of a cliff. This village is named Santorini. You take control of a few villages and try and create the highest tower in the city and stand atop of it, perched over your fellow villagers. The aim of the game is to get one of your workers or villagers to the highest tower, on which is level 3, and you win the game. You get 2 actions per turn, which you must do in order. First is you must move a worker. Secondly, you must then build adjacent to your worker you just moved. This continues until we have a single worker standing on top, a level 3 tower. The domes represent buildings that have been completed and you may not stand upon. It's kind of used to block your opponents and also looks beautiful. Santorini is a really fast game that I've picked up and shown a lot of my friends, even my partner. They absolutely love this game. It's a really fast tactical 2-player game. It's really easy to get your friends and family into this, but then it has a lot of strategic depth once you do get into it. It may seem really simple, and that's what is fantastic about the game. It is simple until you start adding in the god powers, which we'll explain in a little bit, and until you start getting hyper aggressive with your opponents, being able to block them off, trap them in corners, completely just ruin everything they do. I know my partner's not really a fan of my aggressive style nature, but then we throw in some of the god powers where she can have more defensive powers and kind of limits my ability to be a pain. So speaking of the god powers, we do have, there's 2 sets of god powers in the original game. You've got the hibiscus flower down the bottom right of these cards, which represent the simple god powers, and then you have a secondary symbol to represent more advanced god powers later on in the game. In the first few games, it is recommended that you do not play for any god powers and you just play standard. Then you add into the simple god powers, and then later on add the more advanced once you start to learn the concepts of the game a little bit more. Some of the god powers we do have is, you may move your worker up to 2 spaces on your turn. You've got another one here that allows you to, if you've moved up a worker last turn to the next level, an opponent may not move up a level on their turn. We've got, you may swap your worker with with an opponent's worker if they're adjacent. Then some of the more advanced ones start adding win conditions or reducing win conditions, such as if 5 complete towers on the board, you win the game. Your opponent may not win on level 3 anywhere around on the outside of this board. And finally, your opponent must move up a level if they're able to. And that's a really annoying card because you just build levels next to your opponents and it forces them to go up. At the same time, it can almost be beneficial. It's more restriction movement. I love the look and feel of this game. Having these 3D components really gives another element to this board game, especially with newer players to the genre. It gives them something to look at, gives them something to feel, and just visualize the entire thematic process this game's trying to give off. Overall, I really highly recommend Santorini. It is a game that I've not had a single friend dislike. I personally think it's one of my favorite 2-player games, as it is a strategy with no luck variant added to it. It's almost like 3D chess in a sense, and I think that's one of my favorite points about this game, is it all comes down to you and how you play. There's nothing else that's going to restrict you. You have to always be thinking one step ahead of your opponent, and it's just one of my favorite games. So thank you very much for watching. Have a good one.